Hello and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3Iron, and over the weekend, of course, Wolcen Lords of Mayhem came out. You've probably heard about it by now if you're a fan of action RPGs in any way, shape, or form. There's a whole bunch of the gaming community that are playing and enjoying Wolcen. And over the release weekend, the game got a lot of heat. The developers and the company behind the game got a lot of heat because the online multiplayer servers for a vast majority of the weekend were unstable and even for large periods of time simply offline while they were trying to fix various bugs. While I was streaming the game over the course of the weekend, I played in offline mode exclusively and enjoyed the heck out of the game. I am not a paid sponsor for Wolcen. I am just G3Iron who likes to play games sometimes and share my experiences in games and the things that I'm learning about in games with you all. So that being said, there was one particular post over the weekend on a Reddit thread that I made the mistake or made the right thing to do, made the right choice in reading, and I simply had to respond while we were streaming on Saturday. The rest of this video is going to be me going through and reacting to that particular post, which has a ton of frustration. And so I would just ask if you've got thoughts, if you've got feedback on how Wolcen launch went, or your own opinions on concepts of failure or success of launch of games, especially multiplayer games online, feel free to drop me a comment down below. I am hosting this as a discussion platform for us to actually voice our opinions. So if you disagree with me, if you disagree with any of the things that I say on here, I want to hear about that. I want to be more informed about different ways to approach the scenario that we were in over the weekend, other than what I've had to say. If you agree with me at any point in time, feel free to drop us a comment down below and let me know where you agreed with me, and maybe you're coming at it from a different perspective entirely. And so maybe it's not an issue of agree or disagree, but maybe you've got a new thought or a new idea. So feel free to drop us a comment down below, and hopefully you enjoy the discussion. And as always, if you do enjoy the discussion, then you can like, subscribe, and ding the bell for more video discussions just like this one. Here's where we're at. Over the weekend of launch of Wolcen, the online functions have not worked, okay? They just haven't worked. There have been times at which the online functions for the game have worked, and so people have gone online and they have been able to play the game online, play the game with friends, advance through the acts, build out their characters, and it's been great. Well, the good news, bad news story is that right now the online servers are offline. That's why I'm playing offline. And so hopefully many of you, if you're playing the game as well, you're enjoying it offline. A lot of people are upset, and some of them are justifiably upset. Some of them are not justifiably upset. This particular post was from what? 6 hours ago. Okay, 6 hours ago is when this went live. So here is the post. And let's just jump into it. Chiller Main submitted 6 hours ago, said devs are not doing a good job. Unpopular opinion. I get it. The communication is good between Wolcen and the community, but they aren't actually doing their job well. Releasing a working game. Since release 2 days ago, the game has been actually working online for 50% or less of the total time. Yet I see people telling the devs, good job, you guys are awesome. I do not understand why people think they are doing a good job when their game doesn't work. I'm going to read through this whole thing, by the way, and then I will comment. All right. I have lots of thoughts, lots of comments, but we'll get through this guy's full thing before I comment. I see so many excuses, like it's a small dev team. So what? They could have hired a consultant to make their server code not be shit, and they didn't. They could have got enough server capacity to begin with, and they didn't. They could have not released a server wiping hotfix yesterday, yet they did. The game was literally working yesterday when they broke it with a hotfix. Good job, devs, is the quote, is the response from the community. This is a result of software mistakes and lack of preparation. I get it. It happens with every action RPG, but that doesn't make it okay. In the end, devs are still releasing a product that does not work as advertised, and there are consumers And as consumers, we're being screwed over. We're being treated unkindly. Before you say, quit being entitled, you know what? We should be entitled. We paid for this product. We're entitled to receive a working product. That's how every monetary transaction works. When we make excuses for a dev team, doesn't matter the size, we are signaling to future dev teams that it's okay to have your game be completely unplayable on release. Talking about online play here, obviously. A lot of players play online, and they only play online, me included. If your product doesn't work, you haven't done a good job. It doesn't make sense to come up with excuses. Who expects the game to work on launch day? It never works on launch day. That's his hypothetical retort. The people being elitist about not expecting the game to work on launch day, what's your point? It should work when we buy it. If you think it shouldn't work when it's released, you're a sheep. I'm not even sure what that means. You guys will have to educate me on what it means to be a sheep. I don't know. Devs should release things when they're ready. By the way, don't feel bad for the devs. They just made like $3 million. I love the game, or I did love the game for a few hours when it was working yesterday, but the devs shouldn't have let this happen. They've had years to work on this thing. Years. Devs definitely aren't doing a good job so far with the release. Quote, they're trying their best. Well, if they aren't good enough to do the servers right, they shouldn't have brought in somebody. They should have brought in somebody who actually knows how to do it right in the first time. Those people exist, you know. End of rant. Okay. So there's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things. At least a couple of things. The first thing is, he starts off, I get it. The communication is good between Wolcen and the community. That's good. Right? That's good. We all can agree with that. That's good. Wolcen has done a great job of saying, hey, we're pulling the servers. Hey, there's problems. Hey, there's this. Hey, we're getting hot fixes out. Hey, we're changing this. We're changing that. We're trying to rectify a situation. Hey, we've introduced a new problem. We're going to try and fix this new problem, right? That's good. That is a good thing that they have done that. This is where this particular user, Chillermain, and I differentiate for basically the rest of his post. He says, hey, the communication is good, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's the end of the spot where we no longer agree. Our opinions no longer overlap. I'm not going to blast this guy personally. I'm just going to take the things that he said and go from there. He said they aren't doing their actual job well, releasing a working game. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury and of the G3 community, I have been streaming this yesterday for 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours again in the afternoon, and now another 3 hours here today, and I'm planning on still streaming for another hour or two here the rest of the today. This is a working game. This is a fantastically well-conducted release for a game. It doesn't work online right now, and guess what? There is an offline version for you to play. So to say they're not doing their job well, releasing a working game, they've given us a wonderful game to play. So if you hear people out there complaining and saying, yeah, the game wasn't good on release. By the way, let me just remind everybody, I'm not a paid advertiser for this game. I'm choosing to play this game rather than any other game on a day when I've got time to play video games, rather than working or rather than doing other things around the house. I'm choosing to play this particular game because it's been a really, really fun game. If I would have found out yesterday as I was playing the game that it sucked, I wouldn't have already spent 9 hours in the last 24 hours playing this game. This is a really, really well-polished, put-together action RPG with interactive boss fights and a whole world of learning to it that's really exciting for players who like learning games. So this is really, really well done game. To say that this is not a working game on release is utterly ignorant of this person to say. It's ignorant because it means that they're coming from a perspective. Where is it? This perspective. Talking about online play here, obviously, a lot of players play online, only play online, me included. All right, bud, that's great. Chillermain, I'm glad you play online. There's an offline option for this game. You don't have to play the game online. So for you to say they're not releasing a game that works, they did release a game that works. It's not on the platform that you would so desire it to be on, but there's a game here for you to be playing and enjoying. Okay? That's the first thing that as soon as I saw this today, it was infuriating. By the way, for those of you asking how many upvotes did this get, this got 1,270 upvotes. This is on the front page of the Wolcen Reddit. All right, there's only how many people on the Wolcen Reddit? There's only like 8,000 people online. Okay, so it's not some massive subreddit. It's up to 23,000. I want to say yesterday on release day, like before release day of Thursday night or whatever, Friday, depending on what part of the world you were in, I think they were at like around 10,000 people on the sub. Okay, so the sub has more than doubled in size since release. So this perspective, I get it. I get that there are people who are going to be very, very angry because they've set aside time to play this game and to play it online with their friends. But the reality is, and I've got a couple of you out there who are Patreon supporters and who are good friends who I would love to be playing this game with right now, but we can't. So I get the frustration that the multiplayer and the online function is not working. I get that. But to say that they're not doing their job, they're trying to fix whatever problems are going on with the online version, and they've given us the entirety of the game available offline. If you want to play the game is there for you to play. For anybody saying that this is a failure of a launch, your standards for what a launch should look like on a game, a failure for a launch would be, hey, there's not a complete game here. There is a complete game here for you to play and enjoy. And they are working on getting the online things fixed so that way we can all play it multiplayer. It's just, it doesn't mean that you have to go out of your way to say, hey, the devs at Wolcen did an excellent job and there were no speed bumps. No, you can say, hey, there's a big speed bump, and that is you cannot play online right now. That is a big speed bump. That's not saying devs are doing a good job, and it's not saying they're doing a bad job. It's saying they gave us a great game to play offline, and the online content for the game isn't available right now. Okay. He then attacks a straw man that I very rarely see people make. He says, I see so many excuses like it's a small dev team. So, okay, here's the reality of it. Saying something like this is a small dev team, that's the introduction to then giving a reason why something is happening, right? So for this particular user saying, well, it's a small dev team. So he's saying, throw that out. As soon as you say that, just throw that out because their server code is terrible. Well, how do you know for a fact, Chill or Main, how do you know, or anyone else who's upset in this vein of thinking, in this way of thinking, how do you know that they haven't hired a consultant to make sure that their server code was good? How do you know? Do you have access to Wolcen's financial records? Do you have access to the third-party contracts that they're working with? Do you know who it is that they've hired and who they have not hired in order to work on these things? The amount of ignorance that is built into this argument is enormous. In fact, I shouldn't even say it's an argument. Into this complaint, okay? You don't know who it is that they've hired. You don't know who it is that they've outsourced with. You don't know what sort of lengths or breadths they're going to fix the problems that are there. So the fact that you're going to come in and say, well, a small dev team, they have crap code. They don't have crap code. Not when it comes to the actual game. The game is fantastic. If you've actually played the game offline, or you did get to play when you were online, then you would know this game is fantastic. If you're looking for an action RPG that's going to hold you and encapsulate you and teach you a new way of approaching action RPGs and give us a fresh look, something that's different from Diablo 3, something that's different from Path of Exile, something that's different from Grim Dawn, something that is taking some of the best of each of those and actually incorporate that. And by the way, give us an online version and an offline version. So that way, if there is any problem with the online version, you can play the game offline. How many people in the Path of Exile community have been asking for an offline version of the game for years? For years. Because players want to play when there's server problems, or players want to change things, or players want to mod things. Path of Exile's not going to do that. Blizzard's not going to do that. These guys did that from day one. They said, you know what? Here's the game. Here's the game, and it's in its offline version. So, man. Okay, his next straw man is down here saying, and before you say quit being entitled, I'm not saying you're entitled, dude. I'm saying you're ignorant and you have no idea what a good game release looks like. and what a full-on product looks like. This is a full-on product. If they never would have said to us that, hey, it's going to have full-on multiplayer on release, that would have been a much better PR move. They should have released it as a single-player game and then said, hey, multiplayer is coming. I agree with that. I think that's a much better PR standpoint. Then you can slowly roll out the multiplayer side of things, and you can test all of your networking capabilities of your game to actually make sure you can handle the player load that's going to come in. But this argument right here to say, oh, well, quit being entitled. We should be entitled. We paid for this product. Yeah, and it's a damn good product if you would play it offline, right? Oh, we're entitled to receive the working product. It is working offline. If you just want to play it online, then wait. Or you know what else? This guy makes this argument. He says, that's how every monetary transaction works. No, it doesn't. Every monetary transaction doesn't work where there's a working product. In fact, the whole reason why receipts are kept is because not every time you buy something, it's going to work. A lot of the time, stuff doesn't work when you first buy it. This line right here is the most unimaginative, ignorant statement that I've heard this week. And I've talked to about 300 people on the phone this week. This is the most ignorant statement. That's how every monetary transaction works? Really? You've never returned a product to a store. Really? You've never bought fruit or bought food and gone, oh, it's past the expiration date. Oh, this food isn't as good. Oh, this particular product doesn't work the way how it originally was advertised. Oh, this particular product had a necessary conjoining point that was broken, or that was shipped faulty, or that was needed to be returned back to its sender. This guy, has he ever actually bought anything before? The vast majority of the time, it's smart to hold on to your receipt to something so that way you can actually be reimbursed and refunded for your funds if the product doesn't work. Our entire transaction social contract is built around receipts and bringing things back. So no, this is not how every monetary transaction works, my dude. You can ask for a refund if you don't like the game. That's what you can do. You can literally, legitimately do that. If you don't like the game, you don't want to support the game, and you want your money back, go ask for a refund. Now, he says, when we make excuses for a dev team, doesn't matter the size, we're signaling to future dev teams that it's okay to have your game be completely unplayable on release. I've said it a gazillion times already in response to this guy. The game is playable. It's not playable online, but it is playable. So for you to say completely unplayable on release just gives you like zero credibility, my man. You got to reshape your argument. You got to reshape your complaint. If you actually want people to pay attention to your feedback, you've got to reshape your complaint and your feedback in such a way that it actually logically follows. So a better way of saying this would be, hey, I'm worried about what a failed and several hours of downtime of online gameplay during the opening weekend of a game. I'm worried about what that signals for future dev teams, about what gamers are willing to put up with. That is a completely different way of saying a completely unplayable game. It's not completely unplayable. I played yesterday 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, and I've been playing here for 3 hours here again today. You're telling me why it's completely unplayable for you right here, because you only play online. That's on you. That's not on the devs. Yes, the fact that things aren't working online sucks. And yes, the people at Wolcen wish that it was going well, right? No dev ever wants to release something and then have it not work. Nobody wants to do that with their hard work that they've put into something. So don't act like they are not trying over there or that they haven't tried. Again, do you know what sort of contractors they've worked with? Do you know what sort of hours they're pulling right now? I don't know. And so therefore, I'm not coming in white knighting and saying, look at all the good things they're doing. I'm simply saying, do you know they're not doing it? If you don't know they're not doing it, how can you possibly say they're doing a terrible job? You have no basis for making that accusation. Okay. He says, if your product doesn't work, you haven't done a good job. It doesn't make sense to come up with excuses. Literally, the reason why the online servers are down right now is because there's a game-breaking bug that will reset players' progress. Imagine if you're playing Path of Exile or Diablo 3 or any action RPG, and you get halfway through the story campaign, and then all of a sudden, the next time you log in, you're reset, and your character is reset back to the first act, back to the first boss. You would be livid, right? That was happening to players yesterday. So they pulled the online features in the online gameplay down because they didn't want more players to experience that. That's tremendously transparent and tremendously ethical. They weren't going, oh, well, just leave it up and see how many people it happens to, and then maybe we can isolate the problem while the servers are live. No, they said on opening weekend, we are pulling the plug on our multiplayer online servers because we don't want people to have that bad of an experience. So we're pulling the plug, we're getting this fixed, and then we'll re-up the servers. That's tremendously ethical. That is tremendously well done and well executed, as long as they're able to get the multiplayer servers back up. If they're never able to get the multiplayer servers back up, again, the product still works as a single-player game. Okay, the last thing that I got to say on this is, by the way, don't feel bad for the devs. They just made like $3 million. I just got to say this. For anybody that wants to crunch numbers, let's just pull up 3 million here, right? You guys can see this hopefully on stream, 3 million. Hopefully you guys can see this. If there's 40 people on a dev team and they made $3 million, that means each one of them, on average, right, would make 75 grand. Most starting developers in the industry are not making this. Most starting developers, and many of you out there who are watching, maybe you work in development, maybe you've been a developer in the past, maybe you're just a gamer and you wish that you could work in game development. A lot of people would do a lot of really terrible things to earn $75,000 on their game. People would love that, right, if you were making that. So a lot of people are saying, they just made, oh, don't feel bad for the games, or don't feel bad for the devs. They just made $3 million. My man, you got to break that $3 million up. You got to pay everybody on the team. And if the team is 40 people, this doesn't include all of the other business expenses that go into the game, into making the game. People like this user, and this user particularly, doesn't understand that businesses cost money to run. That's what they do. They cost money to run. The software, the computers, the actual workspace that people are working in, the health benefits, the salaries of those employees, all of the perks, everything that it takes to run a business, the money that's being brought into Wolcen right now is paying that out. So unless you know the contracts of those devs that says, hey, if we make $3 million on opening weekend, then Joe, the online developer, gets an extra $1 million bonus and everybody else on the team doesn't. Like, it just doesn't add up. So saying don't feel bad for the devs that just made $3 million, this isn't about feeling bad here. We're talking about a product on its release. We're not talking about feeling bad for people. We're not talking about feeling good for people. We're talking about, hey, how could this have gone better? What could have been improved upon? And what hopefully can Wolcen learn from this moving forward? And what can the greater gaming community learn from moving forward? I would say one thing that, what's this guy's username? Chillermain. I would say one thing that you could learn moving forward is maybe don't purchase a game that only has online options for you and don't play it within the first month. Like, don't play it, because for you, online play is everything. So don't play something within the first month of a game being released if it's only an online game, because for you, it could potentially really ruin your day. So Chillermain, if you're out there anywhere, dude, you got a lot of ignorant statements in here. I get it. Maybe this was like your day that you took off because you were looking forward to Wolcen coming out for years. You know, I get it. I get the reality that it sucks when we take times off and we want to play a game or we want to do something and something doesn't work out. Like if we take time off to go on a vacation and the weather doesn't cooperate, or our flight is delayed, or if you want to go to a park and enjoy the atmosphere outdoors and the weather is terrible, or if you want to play a game and it doesn't work the way you wanted it to work, or it doesn't live up to your expectations. I get it. That sucks, right? That does suck. That doesn't mean that you've got to go out of your way to say a product isn't what it actually is. What the game actually is a fully functioning game that you can play offline right now. And the devs are working to get the servers back up online. Whew. Okay. Hopefully you guys have dropped some comments in the chat, and now I will actually get back to, playing this game that's supposedly completely unplayable. Thanks so much for watching that video and participating in our discussion. I look forward to reading all of your comments and interacting with them down below. If at any point in time you do have additional feedback, you can always drop a comment down below on any of our videos and let us know your thoughts. I would love to hear, first off, if you've played Wolcen either online or offline. Secondly, I would also love to hear What are your thoughts on the games? I've got several different video discussions that are going to be coming out throughout the week as we talk about Wolcen and as we talk about its future moving forward and the different aspects of the game that I enjoy. But feel free to drop down below your own thoughts, your own ideas, and your own feedback on the game through your first off impressions and through your first experiences in Wolcen Lords of Mayhem. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope today is the day a Mirror of Glandra drops for you. Thanks for watching that video. If you'd like more information on any of our discussion points today, you can see them down below in the video description. If you'd also like to join our Discord or support our Patreon, you can do so with the links down below. Thanks again, and big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters.